Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Beth and I read, but if you've read my handle differently, you are more than welcome to stay. I'm currently homesick from work, so please do forgive the congested head cold sound. In my last video, I talked about the 27 book series that I'm currently reading. That is a lot, and so obviously one of my big goals for this year is to try and reduce that number. So part of the reading vlogs I'm planning to do this year will be finishing or progressing the series that I'm currently in the middle of, so that I'm not forgetting all the characters and the plot lines before I come back to the story. A bit of a weird choice in that the series I'm choosing to complete first is the most recent addition to that list, which is the Kingdom of Lies series. Now, I've read book 1 in my 24-hour vlog and I absolutely love this book. Now, obviously part of that could have been the fact that I was reading it within a very short 24-hour time period. But I think one of the things that I loved so much about this was the whole found family trope. It is one of my favourite tropes that I read within any book, any genre. There's kind of two sets of characters. We've got the mercenaries we meet at the start and the hybrids who we meet at the end. So the mercenaries and the group banter and the dynamics that happen there. But then with the hybrids, we've got a really good introduction of a core group of characters who I can really see progressing as the series does. The camaraderie and the banter between the mercenaries was one of my favourite bits of reading this book. With Demos and his connection with Stacia from the prison, I am predicting there's going to be a love story there, and I'm hoping it'll be kind of similar to In the Vein of Play to Prisoner, where we got to see some of the love stories that played out from different perspectives. I'm really keen on Medinia as well. Like, we didn't really get a whole lot of her, but I can totally see, like, between her, Prisca, and Asinia, I can really see that dynamic growing and changing, as well as obviously the romance. So I finished reading this a week ago, and last night, and I got to read the first 150 pages of book 2, and I'm really enjoying it so far. We've had the introduction of a pirate queen, so I really hope that she comes back and plays a much larger role. Obviously, women who have powerful dynamics is a trope that I really like to read, so really keen to see her come back, as well as more of the power play in the romance and the seduction between Prisca and Lorien. What I'm really loving about this in particular is the way that the politics in the world have grown and changed with this book as a result of the actions in book 1. I'm really keen to see how Prisca steps into her leadership role. I think that's enough talking for me right now. My voice is very sore and I am sweating buckets with a fever. With that being said, I will see you tomorrow in about 200 pages, hopefully feeling a little bit better. Alright, life update. Teach went to the doctor this morning and she's got COVID. So she came in and she was like, Beth, I've got COVID. I think you need to test again to make sure that you're not how you're going. I've got COVID too, which sucks a lot because I don't do so well with COVID, but it explains why we've been feeling so shit. The positive side of this is that it means that I can just spend some time reading. So speaking of reading, I have reached the halfway point of my book, which, look, I'm enjoying it, but it's definitely not to the same level that I was enjoying book 1. So it's got a bit of that book 2 syndrome. We're learning heaps about, like, a bit more of, like, the world building, geography, politics, which, like, I understand it needs to happen, particularly because of the way this narrative is structured. But, like, we've been in this camp with our characters for half the book. I'm just ready to go somewhere else. I just want to go somewhere else, I want to do something else. But, like, as I'm complaining about this, I've literally just read where our characters are like, yeah, we're gonna get out of here and do something. So, like, I know that my criticism is kind of null and void. I'm still enjoying it, still enjoying the characters. We just had a scene where, like, our main character got, like, super possessive. And, like, a man in real life being possessive, not attractive in the least. A fictional fairy man being possessive over the woman of his dreams, like, there is something about that is just like the good shit. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to eat my little pizza and find out more about, well, probably about them smooshing booties, let's be real. There is a pirate ship that is sailing underneath the water in a glitter bubble. I'm so happy.
I'm trying to read.
Wait. If anyone's keeping track records, COVID is spectacularly shit, and I would give it 0 stars out of 10. Still have COVID, still feeling crap, but it has enabled me to have plenty of time to read, and 2 days ago at like midnight I finished book 2 in the Kingdom of Lies trilogy. It was definitely slower than the first book. I feel like it did kind of suffer a bit from book 2 syndrome, but with that being said, it made complete sense because it needed to set up a lot of the plot going forward. So where book 1 was kind of like lots of different places, lots of different things, the plot was moving very quickly and it was very fun to read. The first half of this book was spent in one location, and so it just felt very static and I was just ready for the plot to move. With that being said, at this location there was lots of things being done to like develop our characters and set things up politically to prepare for book 3 and onward. Second half was much better. Really enjoyed the action sequences that we got. Leaving us on a giant cliffhanger, that's always a great way to get people hooked in. I have already started book 3. I'm about 100 pages in and I'm really struggling. Not with the book, with COVID. It's just, I'm really struggling to comprehend everything I'm reading. I don't know if I'm feeling burnt out. I'm not sleeping. So where the 24-hour readathon that I did, I was able to kind of blame my lack of comprehension on sleep. I'm doing the same thing for COVID because I'm not sleeping. Anyway, book 3 is really good. One of the big strengths of book 3 already is that we're getting the additional perspective. So it's definitely following formulas that I feel like I read in The Plated Prisoners, which I've already made comparisons to it before, but in the best way. Book 3 kind of splits our gang up across different storylines that are going across different geography of the country, wherever this is set. Having those different perspectives allows us to have more of a plot, it's more interesting to read. At about 100 pages in, one of the perspectives that I've just like been waiting on and ready to read was introduced, and I was like, oh, I think I'll go to bed after I finish this chapter. Literally the next chapter starts with the Senior's perspective, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll just have to read one more chapter. But really struggling health-wise. Part of me wants to just put the books down so that I can give them my full attention, but then part of me is like, no, I need to find out what happens. I need to read it. And it's this dichotomy of waiting for health or just reading it now and finding out what happens, and I don't think either of them is the right decision, and I'm stuck in a loop of endless coughing and snot. Thank Christ, I have book 4 ready to go. There is no delay. I'm getting straight into that. I'm not talking about this to a camera yet. That can wait. I'm gonna go get book 4 and get straight into it. Cause like, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. Book 3. I gotta go. Hello, it is Wednesday the 19th of May today. I actually slept last night, so feeling a little bit better than I have felt all week. It is also Happy Hunger Games Day. It is the release of the new Hunger Games book, and I'm super excited to read it, but my sister and I are going to buddy read it together, so I just have to hold on to my excitement and try to avoid any spoilers for the next month before we read it together. We're not talking about the Hunger Games right now. I'm finally ready to talk about A Crown This Cold and Heavy. I had an absolute ride with this book in the best possible way, and I don't know if it's because I've been sick, if my lack of health is contributing to it, but either way, I am loving this series and I'm so glad I picked it up. Book 3 was much more in alignment with my experience of reading the first book. So we have all of our characters have kind of split off into different adventures and need to work towards the end of this war that's happening in this world. And so the author's chosen to introduce different perspectives. So we've got the Queen's perspective, Medinia's perspective, Vicinia's perspective, and Prisca and Lorien, who we've seen. I like the diversity that we're getting in their perspective. Prisca is full of hope, Lorien is full of lust. He's kind of conflicted between doing the right thing that Prisca wants to do and what's easy, and it's that kind of ethical question that's going on. Medinia is very much in a similar vein as Lorien, someone who sees human life to be sacrificed for the betterment of society as a whole is a sacrifice that's worth being made, and she's happy to make those decisions. Seeing her kind of hardened heart and how that's developing through her relationship with Prisca is really interesting, and especially knowing that her perspective is what the spin-off series is going to cover, it makes me really excited to see more of her. Asinia and her leg of the story is my favourite perspective that we get to enjoy. We've got a B-plot love story, which I'm just like desperate to see the fulfillment of. Her need and desire to not just be the damsel, but to do something that makes her worthy of the sacrifice that Prisca made to come and save her in the first book. She is so interesting, and I think it's because I do relate to her most out of all the perspectives that we have. I love seeing her struggle with that, and I love seeing the teasing of the relationship between her and Demos. And the last perspective we have is of the Queen, and she's massively giving me Melina vibes from Plated Prisoner. So Melina was one of my favourite perspectives in Plated Prisoner, and we had a big journey to follow her changing character. Her character arc was just like the best written arc in that series. I don't believe she's going to get any kind of character arc like Melina had, but I do enjoy seeing her perspective still. Someone who's come from a role of wealth and entitlement does still have some honourable intentions with her desire to save her son, but she's someone who can't see past her lens of privilege. I actually find it a really interesting and engaging part of the book to read, as she's manipulating people for her betterment and for her son's betterment, but then we, kind of contrast her with the hybrid heir and future queen and seeing how people in leadership behaving differently. It is a really enjoyable part to read, even though she's not a particularly likable character. Loved how the plot moved in this. It really felt like the way I can describe it is a whirlpool. We've got like 3 or 4 different perspectives, and each of their stories is moving individually of what will hopefully come together for the final climax of the entire series, bringing everyone together for how to defeat the big bad. I still enjoyed how each of those perspectives worked together to come up to the final climax. I really feel like not just this book, but each of the books really just slowly builds and introduces concepts and ideas that are moving the story forward in a really engaging way. Really easy to read, with some really insightful lines about the role of woman in leadership as well. With this book, we also got a lot more of the love story between Lorien and Prisca, and I just adore a man who would do anything for his woman, and because he is a Fae man, getting that really possessive need for her in the way that that's described is really fun. Gave this 5 stars. I had an absolute ball with this one, and obviously you saw I ended up hopping straight into book 4. Fell asleep quite early last night, was not feeling well, but I pushed myself to stay up till the end of page 100. I just had to keep reading. I was reflecting this morning. I'm not someone who binges through series. I'll read one book and then I'll take a break and then maybe read the next one and take a break and maybe come back a few months later. It's why I have so many series on my TBR, because I just haven't stuck to them and finished them. And I think this is the first time ever where I have picked up a series and read it in completion. It is such a wonderful feeling, and I'm so excited that I'm doing this and that I'm vlogging this to reflect on that experience. Yes, I wish that I didn't have COVID and was feeling better through reading this, but the series has really been the thing that's helping me get through the misery of illness. Being tired and exhausted and in pain for over a week at this point, I'm just completely over it. But using the energy I do have to escape into this world and enjoy the story of these characters. So I'm really glad that I've picked up this series. I'm so excited to meet Stacia at Babe. So it's just before 11 o'clock. I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to make myself some soup because my throat's really sore. And I reckon by Friday, I'll have this series completed. And so friends, that brings me to the end of the Kingdom of Lies series. I am like so sad to be done with these characters. These characters are literally the reason that I have been able to get through this bout of COVID. Just being able to escape to this world and being with them, their growth, their choices that they've made. I just loved this. I feel like it was one of those moments where I just read the right book at the right time, because I feel like if I'd have read this maybe at a different time in my life, I might have been a bit more critical of the storytelling, but no, I was really happy with everything that happened. The final book in particular, finishing this one last night, the war elements, I feel like the war itself, the big battle, was written really well. You were there with the characters, the stakes were high, and I understood what was going on. It wasn't like I was kind of flying over the battle sequence. I was there, I was with them, and I was scared for them. Surprisingly, and it could have been either due to the fact that I am sick or my period arrived yesterday, but like I cried a whole bunch at the end of this. Like maybe not like weepy, it certainly didn't get me weeping, but I definitely teared up 5 or 6 times towards the end of the book. I just really liked it. I like the series. I like where our characters ended up. I'm devastated to be leaving them, but I like that the door is open for them with Medinia's spin-off that's going to come. I will unequivocally be pre-ordering that book and collecting it from Stacia. When I go to the event, I will hopefully be getting her to sign my copies. And I feel like it's the first time ever where I have read an entire series back to back to back. Like I've read series where like I'm up to date and then I read the new release, or I've read series where I pick up a book, liked the first one, but I need like a few palette cleansers in between, and then I pick up the next one. And it's one of the reasons that I have 28 series currently in progress. It is a problem. This was just such a delight to experience it this way. I was so angry with myself yesterday because I was back to work for the first time. I've only done half days yesterday and today. My body was so tired. Even though like I felt like I wanted to work, my body was so tired as a result. So even though I only did a half day, in the afternoons I'd be like reading in the middle of a really anxiety inducing chapter and then would fall asleep. And I'd be like, why am I falling asleep? I need to find out what happens. Would read like a few pages more, a chapter or 2 more, and then fall asleep again. And it was just like the most infuriating thing to be at the end of a series, like not just at the end of the book, at the end of a series, and to just not have the energy to speed through and to find out what happens. But also at the same time, I got to really devour that part of the story. And honestly, I wouldn't change it. I feel like I read this series at the exact right time. For me, this is a 5-star series. I gave all of them 5 stars except for book 2, which I gave 4 stars, which is purely just down to the pacing. I don't think it was bad in any way. It was just a bit slower, whereas the other ones I just like needed to find out what happened more. And I definitely recommend this one. It was the most validating thing. My friend Tina, she saw that I rated the first one 5 stars and she's coming to Babe with us. And she was like, oh, hey Bear, like I saw you rated this 5 stars, what do you reckon? And I was like, look, I stand by my rating. I loved the book, but I also read it when I was very, very tired with like no sleep. So take my 5 stars with a grain of salt. And then she read it and she was like, nah, it was good. I really enjoyed it. And that was the most validating thing in the world, to have my friend say, no, this is a good book and I've enjoyed it. And she's now into book 2. This whole series, you've got really engaging characters, you've got fun dialogue, you've got good paced plot, moving things along, you've got multiple perspectives, you've got love story, you've got anger, you've got revenge, you've got everything that I want in a book with fairies and magic and creatures. So if you're into any of those things, I would highly recommend this series. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, because I probably sounded just like a frog for most of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.